You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network. Visit pencilandpaperproductions.podbean.com to find more great podcasts.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Stephen, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
Welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo. Welcome back, my Weeaboo family. I am your host, Katrina, and with me is my husband, Stephen.
Hello, everyone.
And we just finished episode 8 of Death Parade. We went back to a very dark place.
We did.
So, what did you think?
Well, episode 8, we kind of go back to the death titling. This is Death Rally. And this episode was the equivalent of one of those to be continued episodes that kind of leaves you hanging. And you're just like, what the hell? Why are you leaving me right there, man? You know, yeah. I mean, we see them all the time in television, or at least not as frequent, I would say, especially in today's culture of binge watching. Because, I mean, obviously we're doing that ourselves. But, yeah, this would have been one of the, if I'd had to wait a week, I'd have been like, what bullshit? I'd have been mad because I was like, you just left me hanging and you didn't explain a damn thing, because they really didn't. It was more of a setup than anything. So what we got is, first of all, we see Decim getting he got memories implanted, and he was looking over him, and he was just like, something's odd. So he goes to the phone and he calls Nona, and he's just like, I don't think this is right. Something's wrong here. And he points out that one of his guests is a killer. And I think it's implied by this phone call and this conversation is that he doesn't get killers, or he's not supposed to.
Well, if you remember in the last episode when Nona goes to the one woman who sends the arbiters their guests, that's what Nona was begging for, is she wanted Decim to receive those two. And the woman was like, no, it needs to be sent to a special person because this is a special case. And Nona bribed her for Decim to receive them.
Right.
So, yeah, Decim,
I guess he doesn't feel like he's qualified.
Yeah, it would definitely be outside of his normalness, I guess. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they, the black-haired girl, she kind of catches wind of it. And they're like, what are we going to do? Then the guests arrive, and it's two men. One's an older man. One's a younger kid.
Yes.
One's a detective. The other, they don't really kind of go into great detail about what his job is. He's had a rough life, or at least that's kind of what you get, because seeing in an early flashback, his parents died early on, I'm guessing, when him and his sister were younger, and he had to take care of her because she was devastated by it. So that seemed to be his backstory. The detective, at first glance, he just seemed like he was a detective. That was about it. He's just a guy that knows his job and does it well.
Those nice guy kind of detectives who are like, this is an odd situation, I'm going to look out for this kid, this kind of...
Yeah, and he's
that
very...
kind of detective.
very observant about everything, too.
Yes.
Because when he comes in, he's kind of checking it out, and of course they get the usual spiel about, this is the rules, this is what you got to do, this is what you're here for, do you remember anything? And then, of course, the only thing that they both remember is just they were heading somewhere, but they don't remember where, why, or anything like that. That's just the only thing that they can kind of remember. So before they go into their spinning of the game and choosing their game, they kind of, I guess, take a breather The boy goes to the restroom, and he found a knife. Is that correct?
Yes, had a backpack.
Had a backpack that
He
had
had
a knife
a
in it.
backpack with him, a little green sling like backpack, and it had a bloody knife inside of it.
So immediately you're kind of saying, okay, well, I think we've got this figured out.
Yeah.
So, the detective, but I mean, that can also be misleading because I didn't want to discount the detective immediately because I felt like, well, that's easy. You can just, throw me a red herring and it could easily be the detective, not the kid. And there could be another explanation for why the kid has a knife.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to discount him. I was waiting to see where the story would go. And they go back, they choose their game, and they have to play air hockey. And we did find out the characters' names, I think, before they started playing, before they got their game. The detective was talking to the kid. The detective's name was Tatsume, depending on how you pronounce it.
Yes, Detective Tatsumi and Shimada.
Yeah,
is the young guy.
So the detective noted. I mean, he's already kind of commenting that he was trying to figure out Decim. Like you could see, he was like, I'm trying to read this guy, and I'm not sure. But he seems like he's on the level, but I don't really know. Yeah. He just kind of makes general comments about trying to pick up on him, and he can't quite figure him out. But he did say that he knows he's not a liar. He's shooting him straight, but there's still just something he can't put his finger on.
Yeah.
Like the lack of emotion, I suppose.
Well, Decim had to show them, the quote-unquote bodies hanging in the back room, which, we all know are mannequins. But, of course, the guests don't know that. But showed them, that, and, of course, they automatically jumped to the conclusion, well, if we don't play his game, he's going to kill us. Well, the detective points out that he's very good at reading people, and especially, like, their eyes. Mm-hmm. And he said Decim does not have the eyes of a killer. So he's, they're going to go along with it and everything. And the more that they go along with it is when the detective realizes that he doesn't see any kind of emotions from Decim.
Yeah.
So he knows that he's not a murderer, but he also is getting like zero vibes off of him. So he's very intrigued by him and kind of, standoffish when it comes to Decim. And of course they start playing the game. And as we notice really quickly is they're going very slow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the other games where it just kind of progressed, kind of quickly. And you're just like, okay, we're getting flashbacks. We're finding more out about him and everything else. It's very drawn out. And you see him, like the detective takes a smoke break and they kind of take a break from the game. And even Decim comments on it as that, they're going slower than he thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a little bit of pieces of their memory. The kid, Shimada, has a flashback, of his sister and of playing air hockey with her. Mm-hmm. And he said after, their parents passed away, they wanted to continue a game of air hockey because it kind of took her mind off of it. It gave him something to do, something to enjoy. And he never realized that, there's timers on air hockey tables.
Right.
So they just kept trying to drag it out. And the detective has a flashback of his wife and his birthday and her giving him shoes and, just how much he loved this woman and everything. And as the game progresses, since they're taking so long, their timer runs out. So basically, instead of Decim having his little magic wand that, lets him manipulate, they up the ante for the game. So now they have hockey pucks that have an eyeball on them. So if they score with the corresponding eye, then they'll receive pain to whoever, I guess whoever the person scores against, that person will have pain in that corresponding area, and it's an eye and a heart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the detective scores, he gets scored on. And when he gets scored on, he has a flashback of his coming home and finding his wife dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same thing happens to Shimada, and his flashback is he comes home and his little sister has been beaten up and is just like traumatized. So now both of their attitudes really change, And they kind of go from, you know, these like really kind-hearted individuals, or you get that vibe that they're very kind-hearted, to very stone cold. And you realize, or they kind of confide in each other, I guess, is that they're going to kill the people who hurt them.
Yeah. It's all about vengeance. That's what they're all about. I mean, there really isn't much more to go on here because, I mean, as far as motive, I mean, we kind of get, you know, Tatsumi, he's just out for revenge. He's been trying to find his wife's killer, no luck. Yes. So I'm going to assume at some point he does, because he killed, or we're under the assumption he's out for blood.
Yes.
So, and then Shimada seems to know who did what to his sister, which then leans in more to the fact that, well, Shimada's got to be the killer, you know?
Yeah.
Because he seems to know who's going to do it. He just wants to finish the game, get out, and go take care of business. So you, at that point, they're equally out for vengeance.
Yes.
But what was interesting is if you go to the stinger, which I kind of felt like maybe took a little bit out of the next episode, because
possibly
because, you know, you kind of feel like this was, oh, okay, well, I should have just waited. One thing that was brought up earlier in the episode is the black-haired girl was noticing Decim was trying to figure this out, and she's like, well, maybe I could take a look at the memories, you know, maybe I could help you out. And he just didn't seem 100% on that idea, but he said, I'll make a call and see what I can do, and just kind of left it at that. On the stinger, he makes the call, she gets the memories of these characters thrown into her head, and
yes, and it's the first time we actually see basically what the arbiters see, those little fragments, flashbacks of the memories. And she makes a comment that there's not just one murderer, they both have committed murders.
Yeah, so we're just like, oh, okay. But again, I kind of felt like that could have been something they could have saved, but maybe there's more to the episode than that.
There's definitely more.
Okay, well.
So I will say that.
But, I mean, this was a pretty straightforward episode. I mean, like I said, I felt like it was more set up than a full-on episode that had a lot more to it. It's just set up for the bowling alley. If there was bowling in this, it would have made more. That would have made more sense. But you know what I mean. You're just setting it up. That's all this was. The episode was a setup, so I don't really know what more we can divulge from this other than two guys out for vengeance, out for blood. Yeah. But then we have a twist that, it's not just one killer, it's two.
Yeah.
So what's it going to be? Because I really don't know. I mean, beyond that, I mean, there was really nothing more to this episode.
Yeah. Well, much like the episode, we're going to leave you with love like always, and we're going to have a to be continued.
Dun, dun, dun.
So definitely tune in for episode 9 to, hear the conclusion of episode 9. So like always, much love, my Weeaboo family, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.